hire the right coach, have enough money, and you too can do what Curt Cignetti did.
People can cling to an old way of thinking, or they can adjust to the new world.
Is Indiana's historic run proof? Everybody was moving in the same direction. That's what I saw at Indiana, from the president to the athletic director to the coaching staff, and most importantly, the players. But if you can get that, you got a real chance. Is it proof that other schools can win the national championship outside of those that we are used to? Hey, by the way, this show is presented to you by Prize Picks, and welcome. So good to see you this morning, this afternoon, whatever the heck you are watching this show. The answer is yes. This is like Jeopardy. What's the question? The question is, has Indiana's recent dominance, and it is recent, the last 2 years, is it proof that other schools can win the national championship outside of those that we are used to? The Clemsons, the Ohio States, the Georgias, the Alabamas. And no, I'm not talking about, and we will get into LSU, comparing LSU 2019 with Indiana circa 2025-26. My daughter asked me, "What is this, a 25 champion or is this a 26 champion?" I said, "Look, I don't know, but I'm going 25." And I'm sure I'm wrong. I am. I'm sure I'm wrong, but I don't care. Hey, is Indiana's historic run proof that basically the sport has never been more balanced? Well, let me go into that real quick. The answer is yes, because Indiana is and has been and forever was the doormat of college football. Enter the NIL era. Enter Curt Cignetti. Now, I would argue, flip that around. Number one, NIL being important, but Curt Cignetti's the reason. You know, you could throw a lot of coaches at a lot of different places. Let's talk about it for just a second. Bret Bielema, very successful coach at Wisconsin. He's at Illinois. I haven't even seen him make the college football playoff for years and years. Michigan State with D'Antonio was a really good team. First college football playoff, I believe Michigan State won or got into. They hired the wrong coach. What was his name? Mel Tucker. Next thing you know, get out of here. There's teams all over the country that have hired guys. Those guys wore their suits to the press conference and espoused all their genius to a rabid fan base. In some cases, the marching band was there. Yay, rock, go fight, win. And they never won. And I like Bielema. But you could go to a lot of different places, particularly in the Big Ten and the SEC. At one point, hiring the right coach, Danny Mullen, at Mississippi State, having the right quarterback, Dak Prescott, led to a number one ranking. So anyway, no longer Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, only Ohio State. Pretty interesting. Yeah, NIL. You got some donors that'll give money, and I've been telling you this. In Indiana's case, this is not Mark Cuban. In Indiana's case, this is 6,000 Hoosiers helping Hoosiers, led by a guy, Yonkman, I think is his name. He's the president of Cook Incorporated. They invented the heart catheter. It's a big company. Bill Cook, zillionaire. His son runs it, zillionaire. So this Yonkman guy runs it. 6,000 people donated to it. They got enough money to get Mendoza. They get to a national championship. And unfortunately, but he was very nice to everybody, Mark Cuban became a star. And the focal point, but that's not it. Collective effort. Can you do that at Illinois? Why can't you? Can you do that at Michigan State? Tell me, why can't you? Can you do that at Wisconsin? Tell me again. Why? No? Huh? Of course you can. I don't get why you can't at Duke. Duke's got more money than God, or so they tell me. But college football, you hire the right guy, a winning guy, a tough guy. You know, when Urban Meyer got hired at Bowling Green, the residual effect of Urban Meyer at Bowling Green is still being felt. They got a football building. It's 20, 30 years ago. You know, when Jim Tressel went to The Ohio State University, the Ohio State coach, it was always said, will always win 75% of his games. Tressel said, let's go win 90. Urban came behind. Let's go win 90. Hire the right coach, have enough money, and you too can do what Curt Cignetti did. All right, let's look at this. Let's look at the most playoff appearances all across the country. Now, there's a difference in playoff appearances and national championships. I mean, this has been a lot of same old, no? Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia. Then you got Oklahoma, Michigan, Notre Dame. Notre Dame will be in it forever now, and then there's Oregon. All right. National champions, the top four have them. Oklahoma has them, but not in the playoff era. Michigan won, Notre Dame none. Oregon got its ass beat by Indiana again. Anyway, there you go. Get the right guy. Here's the right guy, Cignetti, on the shift in college football. Here he is talking about what I just talked to you about.
The other thing I'd like to add, I think, to the question the players just answered about Indiana, I think that's called a paradigm shift. It's kind of like people can cling to an old way of thinking, categorizing teams as this or that, or conferences as this or that, or they can adjust to the new world, the shift of the power balance, the way college football is today. So, I think to look back at what happened to Indiana previous to us coming 10, 20, 50 years ago, strictly lacked a commitment from the top. That's it, plain and simple, nothing else. And we have a commitment, okay? And the other thing I'd like to say also is this. This team went all the way. This was chapter 2 in the book, okay? And very close team, special team. The first team never got the national credit it was due because of the controversy over the playoffs, the way we played the last 2.5 quarters against Ohio State and Notre Dame. That team got it all started, never trailed till the 9th game of the year, and when they did up at Michigan State, 10-0 first quarter, scored 47 straight. Started out 10-0, but never really got its due, and that was a special team.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And, everybody at Indiana, and I'm going to give into this, everybody at Indiana that has always coached at Indiana talked about that commitment. Now, I always thought sometimes that was an excuse because when I was there, I saw them build different things within the facility. When I got there, Indiana football, my God, they were literally dressing at Assembly Hall. And guys would walk across from the football stadium to go into this little crappy locker room between Assembly Hall and the field house. And then I saw what I thought was commitment. They built an underground. They did all this stuff, but that wasn't enough. But I'll disagree with Cignetti, maybe for the only time. Yes, commitment was important, but you got to have him. You got to have the right guy. And if you look at Cignetti's statement of Google me, I win, it's really true. I said for years and years and years, when I went from the Big Ten to the MAC, Mid-American Conference, the Mid-American Conference was so much better coached. Unbelievable. And now remember, this is a time in the Big Ten where Izzo was just getting started. Knight was there. Lou Henson was there. There were supposedly great coaches. But when I went to the MAC, I'm like, wow, they don't rely on great players. They have good players, really good players, and we had all kind of pros back then. But boy, is the coaching better. And I always said Division II coaches in basketball and high school coaches are the best coaches that I saw. And Indiana was smart enough to get one, as Scott Dolson did participate in the paradigm shift, which is NIL. Let's be ahead of it. So everybody can talk their talk, but Indiana saw the NIL coming. And the folks at Indiana didn't bitch, whine, and moan. You've never heard Scott Dolson. You've never heard Pam Whitten. You've never heard Curt Cignetti or his staff talk about the transfer portal in a negative. They don't even talk about it. What they do is they go out and participate in it and do it better than anybody else, at least for this year. And I would argue over the last 2 years. Here's our friend Big Cat, a.k.a. Dan Katz, on IU giving hope to others. Here it is. Curt Cignetti's Indiana Hoosiers are the best story in college football history. Just an insane rise, once in a lifetime. He'll probably win more, too. Congrats to all Hoosiers. Give hope to everyone else, which is great for the sport. It's great for me and you and Davey and Sean. It ain't great for coaches, baby, because I just mentioned one. I did. Brett Bielema. You tell me. Illinois, massive, massive fan base. Illinois, big old city. And people think that you go get players out of Chicago. Hell no. Most of those guys are idiots. You go to the outside of Chicago, these massive schools at New Trier, Homewood, Flossmoor. You go all around. There's more players than sense there. But as Brad Stevens told me, when he took Butler to 2 consecutive national championship NCAA basketball tournament games, why'd you do it, Brad? How'd you do it? Everybody was moving in the same direction. That's what I saw at Indiana, from the president to the athletic director to the coaching staff, and most importantly, the players. One big tush push. And if you can get that, it's rare, number one. But if you can get that, you got a real chance. That's why I'm curious about Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin seems to be a divider. Fantastic coach, apparently. At least he was at Ole Miss. But he seems to be a divider. We'll see. I don't know. Speaking of LSU, is Indiana the greatest football team in college football history, other than that? Been documented, other than Yale back in the day. Only team to win 16. Let's compare. 2025 IU against 2019 LSU. LSU had 14 players drafted, including the first overall pick. 2 first-round wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. 4.2 recruiting average, 8 top 100 recruits. Indiana is expected to have 7 players drafted, with Mendoza the likely number 1 pick. 3.1 recruiting average, 1 top 100 recruit, D'Angelo Pons. But let's go on the field. 48.4 points offensively. That's what LSU scored. 21.9 they gave up. Indiana, 44. 14 under 14 points they have given up. Look, I know people want to go to NFL success, and I'm down with that. I really am. I'm down with that. But I must say this. I have a tendency to say, wait a second. Let's look at performance. Indiana has beat teams and beat them bad. I'm looking up something that I think I saved on my phone. Indiana has beaten teams bad, and I get it. I get it. People want to say, do people really think they are better than 19 LSU? I don't know. Do I think they're the best team I've seen in college football? I do. Let me give you a couple. Indiana is dealing with more parity, an extended playoff, more games to play, and frankly, in my world, they absolutely stole souls on the field. Now, so did that LSU team. There are 4 teams that have averaged 48 points a game or more since 19. Indiana's one of them, and so is LSU. Look, I don't know, but what I do know is this. The Indiana team that we saw is not a good team, is not a great team. It's among the giants ever in college football. I don't care what their players were rated. That's for other people. I don't care what guys do in the NFL. That's for other people. I care about how they played. And when you watched Indiana on 4th down and 5, and you're sitting in the stands, and you're looking around, and you absolutely know that they were going to get that 4th and 5 because that's what they do. And if they didn't, it was going to take a great play by somebody on the other side. But what happened? Mendoza made a play, got the first down, and then barreled his way in for a touchdown. That's why I think Indiana's the best football team I've ever seen, because that team does not beat themselves, and what they need, they get. Maybe I'm wrong. It's a dumb conversation. We'll never know. But I got to tell you, I'll put them up against anybody. Hey, big game is almost here. You know the big game. Nothing better. No better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. Close this season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. New feature alert. Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Find your community on Prize Picks. New social feeds feature. You can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you'd like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can either follow Prize Picks partners like us, tail or fade our picks with just one click. I've been on fire the whole time with Prize Picks. Made a little bit of money. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code Dakich to get $50 in lineups after you play. That's $5 lineup or $50 after your first $5 lineup. Code Dakich to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineups. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. It is. Speaking of Indiana, pretty funny, Marcus Freeman sitting at the studio desk watching the Hoosiers compete for a national championship in the wake of him and his team refusing to play after they felt like they were snubbed. The more I think about Notre Dame, which is not very often, the more I think, you know what? Good for you, man. Snub away. Who cares? You're a little Catholic school that used to run the roost. Now, you're a laughingstock. Now, you're a joke. Now, your little brother. You are. Your little brother. I'm going to make a video on it later. You haven't won a national championship since, what, 88? Indiana just got one. Yeah, you beat Indiana last year. Yay, Rod, go fight, win. Here it is. Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame said no to a bowl, and were upset they didn't make the playoffs. But the Notre Dame head coach is a pregame, halftime, postgame commentator at the game on ESPN. If you've been slighted, why would you be there? Well, because Notre Dame is an attention whore. All the little Notre Dame fans came out and said, oh, ESPN sucks, ESPN screwed us, ESPN this. Marcus Freeman's smarter than all the little Notre Dame fans. He is. He's much smarter than all the little Notre Dame fans. Why? He said, hey, you all can go over here and bitch, but I need a little FaceTime in front of America. And he's a good-looking dude and a really nice dude. Mommy's fall in love with him. So good for him. But I'm telling you, the blockheads at Notre Dame are still whining, bitching, and moaning. Do I have a problem with Marcus Freeman being the guest picker? Not really. I don't really care about Marcus Freeman. I don't really care about Notre Dame. I mean, win a game. Schedule harder. Don't be a little biatch. You know, I don't have anything personal against Notre Dame. I grew up, as I've said, an hour away, Catholic kid, never wanted to go there. Never thought it was a place that fit me. The people that I knew that went there, I liked one of them, Mike Walsh, my good friend, but the rest could suck it. Nothing interesting. It seemed like a made-up place to me. You had to make up how to have fun. You had to make up pretty girls. You had to make up that the basketball program was important. That's what you had to do. And every guy subsequent to me not going to Notre Dame that I've met does one thing very well, very well. They tell you they went to Notre Dame. And you go, huh, you didn't have to tell me. You didn't have to tell me. I could tell by your head, a block. I could tell by your flab. I could tell by your unathletic gait that you went to Notre Dame. I can tell by your bookishness that you went to Notre Dame. I could tell by the fact that you have to tell everybody how many beers you drank. You know that kid at the party in high school? Oh, man, I had 6 beers and 3 shots. Like, really? Yeah. I had your sister. That's a good line. Anyway, Notre Dame, good for you. Your little brother, and we love you for it. Everybody likes a little brother. Now go over there. Go over there. Tell us how great your recruiting class is. Tell us about how Tony Rice got us to a national championship in 1910. Tell us about that 66 undefeated team. Go over there. Let us know. Guys, give me a freaking headache. Hey, you joined the show? Of course you are. The hell else you got to do? Make sure you head on over to youtube.com/don'tatme with Dan Dakich to like, comment, and, of course, subscribe. Why wouldn't you? We're not getting enough subscribers. We need more. Get on there. Like, comment, subscribe. Do the whole shebang. Would ya? Would ya? I think you should. All right, a couple weeks ago, we discussed the talent differential Indiana had compared to other teams in the college football playoff. When looking at recruiting stats and rankings ahead of Monday night's national championship, Nick Saban joined the boys at game day, the McAfee show. He's the only guy, he and Herbie, at game day, and eviscerated the recruiting ranking sites. Here's what Nick Saban had to say.
You know, I got a little theory about the first part of what you said about the stars. We never ever looked, and I know Sig doesn't either, at how many stars a guy has. Because I think what you all need to do is look at who's giving out the stars.
No. Yeah.
They don't know their ass from a handful of sand when it comes to what a football player is. So why would you as a coach depend on somebody who's not even a coach evaluating players to give them stars? You know, I say all the time, Josh Jacobs had no stars. Damian Harris was a 5-star. They were both really good players, don't get me wrong, but Josh Jacobs was a first-round draft pick and Damian Harris was a third-round. Josh Jacobs still playing, Damian Harris is not. So when you evaluate the players on your own in terms of the criteria of what you're looking for at each position that fit in your system and the criteria of the kind of people you want to make the culture of your team what it is, which I think Sig has done a fantastic job of, because it's culture over system. I mean, if you don't have a good culture, you're never going to execute the system no matter how good it is. So that's what they've done such a great job of at Indiana, in my opinion. So I'm just not a big fan of the stars. I never knew how many stars a guy had until
They had 5.
signing day.
They went to your place?
Until signing
Most
day.
of them.
They had 5. And if they didn't have 5, as soon as you offered them, it was funny how those changed. We got actually a new piece of tape on this guy. Saban likes him. That's a 5-star. That's a 5-star.
All right, let me address this. This is so true, both of these guys. Brad Stevens, I'm using him again, had a great saying. Who ranks the rankers? Who ranks the rankers? So these guys get out there and they tell you this guy's a 5-star recruit. Who's that guy? Who ranks the rankers is exactly what Nick Saban is saying. Who ranks the rankers? Nobody. But Nick Saban's also full of crap, because I'll tell you who is calling people. I'll tell you who is evaluating based on that. That's his assistant coaches. I'll tell you a story. Urban Meyer, Charlie Strong, and I were at the national championship game. It was Florida against Ohio State, 2007. We're sitting there, and I said, hey, you guys got a really highly recruited athletic dude out of Indiana the other day named Jeremy Finch. And Urban really didn't know who he was. He looks at Charlie Strong. He goes, hey, Dan, tell Charlie Strong what you just said. I said, all right. You know, everybody tells me this Jeremy Finch is damn good. Charlie Strong was Urban's defensive coordinator. They really didn't know. They just knew this was a guy that they had been told was really good, and recruiting services said was a 5-star recruit. Jeremy Finch started on Urban's first game, kickoff team. Got hurt, left school, bad story. But people do know how many stars. And then McAfee is brilliant here again. I'm going to go to Butler. Butler and Brad Stevens always said, hey, look, we offer a guy, if he's a 4-star recruit, he becomes a 3-star recruit. And Butler didn't get many 4-star recruits. Gordon Hayward was a 5-star recruit that nobody knew about as a 5-star recruit. I saw Gordon Hayward at our Indiana basketball camp. I said, time out. We got to have him. Why don't we get him? They said, well, he's committed to Butler. He's a tennis player. I said, oh, okay. I didn't know. I was just coming to Indiana in the middle of the summer. But I'm telling you, his assistants know who the stars are, and I'm also telling you that McAfee is 1,000% correct. He couldn't be more correct. You announce you're going to Alabama, all these little recruiting wonks, they don't want to be left out, so they'll immediately say, oh, man, he's really good. He's a 5-star recruit. A 3-star recruit becomes a 5-star recruit, sometimes by hard work, sometimes by performance, but most times committing to Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson. Now, that's been exposed, so these little recruiting wonks, they don't really do that anymore. They've slowed down on that action. They have. But I got to tell you, my ass, that's exactly what happened. You commit to Duke, oh, my God, hey, we did this. I invented a player named Ivan Ranko. Fake player. I invented him in a airplane coming back from Minnesota to Indiana. Coach Night didn't like our recruiting stuff out. So we made up a player. I leaked it to a guy that I knew had a big mouth and would tell everybody. Next thing you know, a couple recruiting services said they had seen this guy overseas. He's a big, strong kid. I've got it in a file somewhere. We made him up. And I got to tell you, man, that was the funniest thing I ever seen. In fact, I've got a poster of Ivan Ranko. A lot of people think Coach Knight made him up. I absolutely made him up. Anyway, there you go. The recruiting thing gets stuck in the craw of a lot of coaches, and a lot of coaches do what Saban just did. But I got to tell you, their assistants are scouring. I use recruiting services, a guy named Bob Gibbons, just to see if they had seen a kid out of my area. I trusted Bob. I really trust any of the others. I turned on the TV the other day, and there's Gary Parrish sitting on CBS. I looked at this crew on CBS. There's an obligatory African-American woman. There's a guy, I think it was Wally Zerbiak. He hadn't been around basketball in 100 years. And Gary Parrish. And these guys were talking, and they could not have been more wrong about what they were saying. I can't remember what it was. I go, that's not true. That's just simply not true. That's not the way basketball works. But, hey, you get yourself on a TV show, and next thing you know, you're a freaking genius. And I say salute. And I say good for everybody. Because, frankly, in basketball, in football, in everything we're doing, everybody's getting paid. The players are getting paid. Gary Parrish, whoever the hell he is, on CBS Sports, I think he's about that tall, wears glasses, shaved his head, looks like me, but less athletic. He's getting paid. Everybody getting paid. But boy, is McAfee right. McAfee is so right. That freaking, you commit to Alabama, you're at minimum elevated to a 4 or 5 star. Nobody knows college football like the Bear, a.k.a. Chris Fallica. You see him, you know him, you love him, all over Fox's Big Noon Kickoff, and the Bear podcast is fantastic. Let's get right into it. A lot of people are comparing 2009 LSU, this year's Indiana team. Where are you at with the whole discussion?
In terms of quality of player, pro prospect, all of that, you hate to be the one. You don't want to pee in anybody's Cheerios and rain anybody's parade, because what Indiana did has just been unprecedented record-wise. But like talent-wise, if you look at 2001 Miami, 2019 LSU, the number of first-round picks, the NFL elite Hall of Fame NFL talent, like there really is no comparison. I mean, Mendoza is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, and they got some other guys who are going to be drafted in later day 3 type guys, but it's hard to say that what Indiana achieved isn't one of the greatest, if not the greatest, achievements in college football history. But in terms of like the personnel and the talent, there really isn't any comparison.
See, I don't disagree with that. I go 2 ways on it. I get it, man. You got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, all that kind of stuff. I mean, what the hell? And then you mentioned those rosters back in Miami. And, but I will say this, if I go by what I saw in performance, Like, here's the way I looked at Indiana, and I'm curious if you think that. 4th and 5, Cignetti goes for it, and I swear to God, watching this team all year, I'm like, well, Miami's going to have to make a hell of a play because Indiana's not going to shoot themselves in the foot, and somebody in Indiana's going to make a play, so you better make a better play. That's the trust I have in Indiana, whether it's against an old Miami team, an old LSU team. You know what I mean? That's how I look at this Indiana team.
And that's the difference between a good coach and a great coach in knowing his personnel and knowing the situation. And at that point in the game, if Miami's offense had finally gotten going a little bit, they figured things out. And I think there was like, do we really want to kick a 32-yard field goal or whatever it may have been? Or we're going to need 7. And if you can't trust the 5th or 6th year Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, or whatever, Fernando Mendoza, you can't trust him. Who the hell can you trust? The fact that Curt Cignetti trusted his offense then, trusted his offense later in the game on another 4th down, speaks volumes. And that play that you alluded to from a Miami standpoint, that's the one, Corey Heatherman, their great defensive coordinator, that was the one regret he had in the game after the game was not calling timeout on defense there. They knew what from the formation, from everything, from the tendencies. They kind of knew quarterback draw was coming, and he couldn't get the call in fast enough to get everybody adjusted on the same page. You saw Curt Cignetti take a defensive timeout on that final drive later in the game, play before the interception to seal it. So, but yeah, the trust that Curt Cignetti had in his team, it just speaks volumes as to the belief in the culture in that locker room.
Bear, I'm telling you, like making a bad play call or whatever as a head coach bums you out, but knowing that you didn't get a timeout, like I've never coached football other than 8th grade football, but I know in basketball, I'm like, son of a bitch, I should have called a timeout there. You know, it's like, man, that's the one that really burns your ass. Because usually a play call you've studied, all right, you know, a guy made a great play, guy missed a jump shot, that kind of thing. But it felt to get a timeout, and I didn't do, you know, oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Those have to be those have to be the ifs, the ands, and the buts. Like you're everything you do except that. It's like they're going to be replaying that in their mind for quite some time.
Yeah. All right, you know, and you're the perfect guy to talk about this because you went to the U. You've seen Miami be great. You've seen Miami go down. Now you're seeing Miami be great again. Curt Cignetti talked about the paradigm shift in college sports, you know, and I use this, you know, and you mentioned great coach. Here's what I said. Illinois has everything times 5 what Indiana has or should, but you hired the right coach and you embraced NIL. Is there now, and does Cignetti trigger this, or was it triggered before, a paradigm shift to where now, hey, fan bases at Michigan State or Rutgers or wherever are going to say, we can do this, get this NIL thing right, and get the coach?
That's the great thing. It gives everybody hope. And I believe Joel Klatt kind of said the same thing. Like, if it can happen in Indiana, if you get everybody aligned from president to AD to head coach, and now you've got to add that other dimension of collective or booster club, however you're funding and financing the NIL portal, it can happen. You look at a team like, just speaking from the Big Ten, Illinois, Minnesota, teams like that have had very little success in college football history, but more success than what Indiana had. If you can get that right, then you have a chance to win 10 games, to get into the playoff as maybe not winning a conference, but as an at-large. And hearkening it back to Miami, looking back at I think it was 2021, when I was still on College Game Day, in Kirk Herbstreit and I had kind of an impassioned, they kind of set me off on Miami and what was wrong there. And you can find it on Google and YouTube. Just search Kirk Herbstreit Miami athletic rant, and it was Kirk basically like saying from an analyst standpoint what I was saying as an alumnus, just like how is this happening? And nobody was on the same page, and that kind of prompted and precipitated some change there. A new AD, new head coach, everything kind of fell in line, and it took 4 years. But Miami certainly, it appears the rebuild is going well.
Yeah, it appears the rebuild is going great. Brad Stevens told me that privately, and maybe he said it publicly. I asked him, like, all right, you went to 2 straight national championship games. What was the key that nobody thought about? And he said the entire place was moving in the same direction. There was no nonsense. There was no fighting. There was no ego. You know, the baseball coach would see players and support whatever message that I had. The janitor, he actually mentioned everybody, like, you know, everybody in that building, everybody. All right, let's get to what's serious now.
Guys, though.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you said something key there. Like, it's the trainers, it's the janitors, it's
everybody,
the assistants, those people in everyday life. Like, you know them, you address them by first name. I remember a story a few years ago about Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia. Like, one of his rules was you needed to know everyone's name in the athletic department. Like, he would flash pictures of people, and if it was Gina, the office, you needed to know that, and that is so important to make those people feel a part of everything.
I'm walking down. I go back to Indiana, and Calvin Sampson's there. And that's not Calvin's thing, but I'm walking, and one of the janitors was in Assembly Hall. I said, "Hey, Jeff, how you doing, man?" And Sampson looks at me. He goes, "How'd you know that guy's name?" I go, "I play softball with him, and I know everybody's name here." He goes, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Coach Knight do that?" I go, "Yeah, we knew everybody's name. I mean, I would stop in and bring a bottle of booze to the little workshop there because I know those guys like Jack Daniels, I mean, that's common courtesy too. That's, but hey, that's the big deal though, because you don't, like when I was at Bowling Green, when I first got to Bowling Green, I had to do some things. And one of the ticket guys was telling my players, "Hey, I hear Dakich yelling at you through the, we're in the ticket office right now." That's all bullshit that he, And I went in to see the guy. I go, "Look, I don't need that. You don't need that. We're trying to work together here." But anyway, you know what else I saw? And tell me if I'm wrong about this. I want to get to other things with you. But I've never seen Cignetti, and I've never seen Mario Cristobal. Maybe I'm wrong on Cristobal, but I know this about Cignetti. I've never seen them do anything, any complaining about NIL, transfer portal, none of it. They just live in their own thing and deal with it, both of those guys.
No, you're correct, because I think they both understand that this is where we are in the sport. This is the future of the sport, and you need to embrace it. If you're not improvising, if you're not welcoming it, if you're not doing everything you can to improve your roster and your chances of winning, and if you're in denial about where this is going, in battling people in court, no, you can't leave. Like, it's not doing you any good. And that is and that is just another sign of the trust. You have a staff, a personnel director, a department that handles that. Got a couple of people that handle that. You've got, Miami has a group called Canes Connection, which is their collective. Dennis Smith is the personnel guy. You're the head coach. You've got a game plan. You got to worry about all of that stuff. And then if you are needed, they'll bring you in. But they ultimately trust, and I'm sure Indiana has the same type of deal where Curt's got his personnel guide and their collective group. Let them deal with it, and if they need you, they'll come find you. But these schools, look, I know Duke is pissed off about Gary and Mensah wanting to leave and going in the portal and suing him. Luke Fickell was aggravated last year and wouldn't let Xavier Lucas in the portal. Like, that's going to hurt you long term. It's going to kind of detract and deflect, and people aren't going to want to go there if you're just fighting and these people are going to get a bad reputation, and like, yeah, well, you know what? If you want to leave, maybe something doesn't go right there. Maybe they won't. But just accept it. I mean, look, you don't have to like it. Lee Corso, who obviously you know quite well, always used to kind of have little sayings and little life-isms about. I mean, he had a ton of experiences, and he brought up a story about being at the U.S. Naval Academy when he was an assistant, and there was a high-ranking officer who he maybe didn't see eye to eye with about something, and he's like, "Oh, I couldn't stand him." But you know what? Every time I saw him, "Good morning, sir. Good morning, General," whatever it was. You know what? You don't have to like a person, but you've got to respect their position. And I think it's similar there. You don't have to like it, but you've got to respect it and understand that there's a reason why this person has their position or why they're in place.
I agree. All right, let's get to the important stuff. Patriots 5.5-point favorite. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're giving 5.5. Jared Stidham in Denver. Man, what do you think?
Too many points. I think it's an overreaction.
I agree.
It's an overreaction to Bo Nix being out. All year long, people would talk about Bo Nix and how terrible he was and how he couldn't throw and he's potentially costing them games. He's great in the fourth quarter, but he's really not the reason why Denver is winning. And now we're to expect that Bo Nix, because he's gone, Denver's 3 points worse on offense. And I don't think the drop-off is that big. If it wasn't for how bad C.J. Stroud and the Steelers' offense was and things like that, and how bad Justin Herbert was, we'd be raising an eye about the Patriots and Drake May and how bad their offense is. Like some of the numbers that are out there about the Patriots winning Sunday with like 13 first downs and 3 yards of play, and it was just amazing. They won the game because basically the Texans were terrible. I like Denver plus the points. Would not be surprised if the Broncos won outright.
Me too. I mean, I love Mike Vrabel. I think tough coaches are back. I think Peyton's a tough guy. Yeah, but I'm with you. What do you think in the other one? Man, Seattle looked good. The Rams made a comeback. 2.5 looks to be that line. Where are you at with Seattle?
This is a tougher one for me because I have been on the Rams all year, and I've kind of been questioning the Seahawks. I'm going to take the Rams plus the 2.5. I might buy a little. They take the Rams plus 3 at plus 125 or a little extra juice just to get that number. But the Zach Charbonnet injury for the Seahawks is big. Now they're down a running back. They have to rely more on Kenneth Walker, which they can. And we don't know about Sam Darnold. That game snowballed from the start because of the special teams touchdown, their ability to run, field position. It allowed Sam Darnold to not do much. We don't know really if his oblique is still hurting. Is it healed or what it is? We remember the Rams getting up big in the regular season with a couple of weeks to go and then losing on a special teams gaffe and just completely blowing that game. I think the motivation, the driving force of that loss will serve Sean McVay and the Rams well. I think the Rams are going to go in there and win.
You know, I'm a very simple person. I remember thinking, don't bet against Brady, don't bet against Manning, because it's death by paper cut. They may get down, and next thing you know, I feel the same way about Stafford. I assume he's going to be the MVP. I assume you give him a chance to win the game now. He's going to win the damn game or certainly break a frickin' bet that you had. The great ones do that. They crush your soul late. That's how I feel about Stafford, Bear.
And it was evident in that game in Chicago. Like he did not. I mean, the weather was brutal. There were people who were moving inside the concourses because of the wind. But yeah, people were wondering why McVay didn't run the ball more with Corum and Kyron Williams. But he made some unbelievably big-time throws in the fourth quarter and in overtime to get them in position to win that game. And, yeah, I agree with you. I do think that he ultimately will be the MVP.
Who do you like? If I was going to take, we got 4 teams left. You can make a futures bet. Who's the best team? Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?
I think the Rams are the best team because I think combo. Yeah. And I think if you look, it's some of these numbers, like you can get, I believe right now, people aren't going to, they always get hesitant when you lay like north, like a $2 money line price, but you can find like the NFC minus 235 or so over the AFC, meaning just to win the game. So that means you're going to get either the Seahawks or the Rams against either one of the AFC teams, the Broncos with Jared Stidham, or the Patriots who had the benefit of playing one of the worst schedules in NFL history to get to the playoffs. You can do that just to win. I do think the Rams ultimately are the best team. I think they in Seattle are kind of co-favorite right now. But if I had to pick one of the four, it would be the Rams.
I looked this up. Seahawks are the favorite, at least according to DraftKings, plus 145. The Rams next, 230. Patriots, 250. Then with Stidham. Stidham's moved that line, man. He has moved that thing to plus 1,100.
And you know what? I remember the year that the Buccaneers beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl. I was in Vegas, and they were like plus 650 or so to win the Super Bowl on NFC AFC Championship Day. And I'm like, wait a minute, they can go to. I think we're playing Philadelphia. I think in the NFC Championship game. I'm like, I think they're going to beat the Eagles, and they did. And then they wound up pounding the Raiders in the Super Bowl. I'm like, look, I wouldn't fault anybody for taking a flyer on the Broncos at 12-1 right now because at home, I think they could beat the Patriots. And you know what? Maybe you drag Seattle or the Rams into an ugly ass type game where it's going to be a defensive battle and ugly. And in that type of game, maybe they don't react well. So while I think the Rams are the best, if you want to take a 12-1 shot, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all.
I mean, particularly with the first game at home. I know, okay, you got – and here's the other thing, and I know I'm keeping you too long, but here's the other thing. They went out and got Stidham. Like, Sean Payton wanted that guy, paid him the highest backup money in the league. I mean, with all due respect to all of us out here, that means a lot to me that Payton wanted that guy.
And remember – in New Orleans, when Drew Brees was getting towards the end of his career, he missed a lot of time. He was winning games with Taysom Hill and other backup quarterbacks. Yes. He's been around a lot of situations where he's had to win games with backup quarterback. He is a very prideful, ego-driven guy. You don't think that Jared Stidham's going to be absolutely prepared? You don't think that game plan and the running game with Harvey and that defense isn't going to be absolutely prepared, do everything they can to support and lessen Stidham's load? Absolutely they are.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you're not dealing with all of a sudden you're bringing in Phillip Rivers to play in this. You're playing a guy that, as you said, knows how. I know he hasn't thrown a pass in a couple of years, and that's a big deal, but hey, last thing, college basketball.
Before your last thing.
Go ahead.
You mentioned a name, and I know this isn't your indie show. Are we now at the point, like a couple of weeks removed from, what the hell was that about?
I agree.
Why didn't you? I mean, Riley Leonard wasn't on the injury report right the week of Rivers' first game. Like, why didn't you just play him and see what you had? Like, it was like a sideshow.
It was the most ridiculous thing, and everybody likes Jeff Saturday, but bringing Jeff Saturday from the booth to coach your football team in the middle of the season was completely idiotic. I mean, this is right there. You knew that, people don't know this, but Daniel Jones had this thing for 4 weeks, and they didn't have a plan. Like, you got to – you're telling me there's not somebody that's better than – I'm so glad you said that, Bear, because that's exactly what I have said. And in Indy, oh, my God, Grandpa Rivers is the greatest thing. Make him the head coach or the offensive coordinator. That's a sideshow. That's the perfect way to put it. Perfect.
Yeah, I was shocked that Leonard didn't play. I was when people told me, like, oh, no, they don't have a backup. Like, it's Riley Leonard and Anthony Richardson who's not active. I'm like, that's like a major roster fail right there. Like even the Jets, as crappy as they were, and historically awful, at least you had a college quarterback who you had on your roster, on your practice squad forever, and Brady Cook, who was terrible, but at least he was a functional quarterback who could actually move and.
Well, it's Wednesday. I think I missed a day. I didn't realize it was Wednesday. What the hell, Wednesday starts right now. Davey, what do you got?
This video is coming from Kamchatka, Russia. They have been hit with basically the biggest snowstorm ever recorded. And you got people jumping out of 3-story windows into the snow just because there's that much powder on the ground.
What's this clown doing?
Had to dig a tunnel to get to his car.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
The amount of snow they've had has led to the AI videos being like it's hard to judge whether something's AI or it's actually real given the amount of snow. They had 3.7 meters in the month of December, and then it doesn't get warm enough to where that's melting. And then in the last couple of days of January, they've been hit with essentially 2 months of snowfall over a couple of days to where they got 6.5 feet just in the last several days.
That's unbelievable. That is incredible. Man, that is really incredible. I thought these guys were driving down the street getting ready to hit somebody. You know, you're right, though. In an era where who knows what's AI, who knows what's real, you're telling me this is real right here in Russia. Mother Russia's got the snows. Mother Russia. Wow. You know what I like about this part of the video, Davey? I thought the guy was going to lift up and hit his head on the top of that thing there, but watch him. He bends down. There you go.
Still not.
That's how we do. Yeah. No. Oh God, no. Are you insane? Like, all right, you get what? Paralyzed, break a leg, die. Yeah, that's stupid. The Ruskies, they're tougher than their American counterpoints. And if you don't like the accent, send one in. Yeah, I'd like to hear it. The Ruskies are coming. Danilo. Next.
He does.
Oh, you're a dumbass.
Oh my God. Ah! God. What? They're like friends, you guys. Oh my God. I don't think that's what I call it. It's so cute.
Davey, you talk about not worth the risk. So let me walk you through the way I think. First off, that whole thing is stupid. All right. So now the guy does whatever the hell that was. What'd he do? Open the mouth, throw the alligator away? Fine. Now he's got to get out of there and he can get paid. I guess he got the same thing the Russians got, some kind of adrenaline rush. But what's the point?
It's a great question, Dan. I struggle to get into the mindset of these types of people, but then again, at the same time, I think there's nothing going through the mind. I mean, I get that they call them swamp puppies, but hell no. Like, why on earth even get close to this thing, trying to feed it? I don't care if it's a wild animal that could take you under. You're dead in a matter of minutes. Nobody's saving you if that thing gets a hold of you.
Yeah. Davey, you're sitting there and you're like watching this, and I can't believe what I see. Like, okay, you got in there, you did whatever you did, and now you get out. Great. You gave others a fantastic video. I'm weird with this. If I'm going to do something like that, I need to get out of the water and somebody hands me a $10,000 check. That's it. That's it. I'm not walking out of there so that you can pat me on the back and say, hey, I got a great video of that. That's stupid. Next. That's stupid. Quit being stupid. Oh, boy. You know this is coming. You know that's coming.
I'm done.
Yeah, you are. Davey, it's science. You see a hill. You see a dumbass on a skateboard. You see a dumbass on a snowboard. You see a dumbass on a bike. You see a ramp. You see a wall. It's science. Dumbass, downhill, up ramp, in the wall, on the ground. Then it becomes, how injured is this guy? And I see right there the helmet saved my life. Well, eventually, you're going to die of something stupid, Davey. I don't know. I think it's science, Davey. I do.
Even with that hard of a hit, I could still see you breaking your skull, helmet or even with the helmet on. I mean, but as they say, Dan, you got to do it for the gram.
I didn't see that wall moving either. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that wall budged. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he put a nice dent in it and he can go back and show his buddies or his kids. I like showing my kids pictures of me when I played at Indiana. I don't want to show kids where my head indented a wall and chipped the paint. Oh, chickapesta, my eyes are burning. Next.
Winter Olympics right around the corner, Dan.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Italy, here we come. There you go. Oh, boy. Oh, this is bad. That's AI, isn't it? Is that AI?
No, that's dash cam
No?
footage. No. You know, I don't know if you can tell, but this is actually perfect. He gets hit right in front of an AFC urgent care. There's no better place to get injured.
Yeah.
But it's hard to see. They clearly ran the red light on those scooters. Like, I don't blame this person at all. I mean, even if I was there, it's like I'm probably not even hitting the brake. It's like, let's see what damage we can do. Idiots, man. Idiots.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen, maybe I have, I'm sure you have, I don't know, but I don't know if I've ever seen a guy hit the car from that angle. That's just a flip onto your head. You know, a friend of mine used to always go through crosswalks, true story, and his thing was, hey, them boys got brakes. And this is before phones, and I'm like, I got to tell you, Brian, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're going to rely on some idiot driving a car, and you think you could just go through crosswalks anytime? Yeah, them boys got brakes. All right.
Do you have?
All right.
Dan, last time I was in Indy, it was super cold, so nobody was out. But are those scooters popular in Indianapolis?
I have two.
Okay.
I do. I'm when I moved to the golf course, I figured, you know what? I don't need to drive my car there, so I put my golf bag on my back and I go right up the the cart path, and then we bought one for my. Scooters are cheap, actually. This thing I got for like $200. I mean, it goes 15 miles an hour. But we bought one when my stepdaughter Tegan was at Harvard. We bought her a scooter because she lived far from they put her in, you had to live in housing in a freaking softball field, so we got her a scooter. Yeah, they're all over Nashville. Lee and I, last time we were in Nashville, we stayed out wherever at the Graduate. I think it was the Graduate Hotel or the A-Loft, and we took a scooter into downtown, one of them green things or whatever, the birds. Yeah, man. Yeah, I love them. I do.
Our studio here is close to a mile away from the office, and if you want to walk, you got to go across Broadway. So it's like seeing these things are on it, like it's a daily basis for me. And then people are idiots. They don't abide by the rules. Like you're not supposed to ride them on the sidewalk. And so anytime I see somebody, taste pavement, I just get a chuckle inside. I literally just put aside their injuries. It's just like, that's funny to me.
Yeah, it gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling that dumbasses got what dumbasses should get. That's what it is.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
That's right. Oh, this can't be good. Davey, this is a true story. Now, it's not interesting, but it's mine. Right there is the reason I will never, ever, ever parachute. My brother, my sister-in-law, my sister, they've done that thing where you hang on with somebody else, two-person, and you parachute. But right there, coming in too hot and then bouncing around. Nuh-uh. That, people say, well, you're afraid to jump out of a plane. Yeah, I'm afraid to jump out of a plane. I'm not a freaking idiot. But I understand that part of it. But right there is why in my feeble little brain, Davey, I will never, ever, not even, on vacation and, hey, they'll hook you up. No, have you ever parachuted?
No, I'm smart.
That's right.
I'll give the guy credit. He at least hit his mark. He went right between the lines.
That's great. Good for him. You know what I mean? Like, hey, He died, but he hit his mark. He broke 3 legs, his middle one and 2 others. But he hit his mark, damn it. No, I'm with you, Davey. There's no chance that I am doing that. 0. Shout out Delta Airlines. What? You're supposed to only go on Twitter and say, yo, Delta, my bags are lost. I'm sad. No. Last night, I had a flight from Fort Myers to Detroit to Indy. And like everybody else, I was tired. I had a window seat, which I don't really like. But anyway, we get to Detroit, and we're waiting, and we get on the plane. Everything's on time. And then they come over the loudspeaker and say, hey, we're going to delay a little bit because this is the last flight of the night. There's a bunch of people that are connecting to get home to Indy from Miami, and the flight's getting in about 10 minutes. So just, hang on. I don't even know if they said 10 minutes, whatever they said. And I heard a groan. And I didn't say nothing. I kept my head down, but I was really happy. I was really happy Delta Airlines did that because I've been on the other side of that. Not your fault. Things got delayed. Whatever. Last flight, the hassle it would be. I heard more and more people moaning as 10 minutes or whatever it was became 20. Some people got on, all Indiana fans. People thought that was it. A couple minutes later, here came some more. A few minutes later, here came some more. And I heard constant groaning coming from Indiana fans behind me, like, let's get this on the road. And I thought, I just kept myself. I always do. I sit in my seat. I don't bother nobody. And I thought, good for Delta Airlines. Good for them. So what? We're a half hour later. Yeah, I know. Instead of getting home at what? Midnight? We got home at closer to 1 because they had a de-ice. Actually, after 1. Who cares? We got home. People got to get in their own beds. People got to get back to their families after having a great weekend instead of having to get a voucher for a hotel and all that nonsense. I salute you, Delta Airlines. You did a great job last night. You did. I know everybody bitches, whines, and moans. Not me. I respect, because I've been on that other side, and that other side ain't no fun. Either running, hoping against hope that they're going to keep the plane, or pulling up and the doors close and you're like, crap. Again, salute Delta Airlines. We'll see you tomorrow.